This screencast covers the topic of DNA and cell specialization, which is found in Chapter 3 of your textbook. This screencast was designed to help you achieve the following objectives: define a gene, explain how DNA determines structure and function, define transcription and translation, and identify the location where each occurs within a cell. Define genetic defect, compare germ cells and somatic cells, and explain cell specialization among cells with identical DNA. So you've probably heard the expression, DNA is the blueprint of life, or something to that effect. You are well aware that you look like your parents because you received your DNA from your parents, and that there is some resemblance in your brothers and sisters, your cousins, grandparents, etc., because you all share a certain percentage of the same DNA. But how does that work? How does DNA determine what you look like, for example? Well, DNA codes for every protein in your body. In fact, a gene is the specific segment of DNA that contains the information for the production of a specific protein or a polypeptide chain. So you can think of DNA as providing the recipe for the making of all of the proteins in your body. In the same way that your mother or your grandmother may have a recipe for making a specific cake or a specific pie or some other cooked item. So DNA provides the recipe for all of the proteins in your body. Remember that over 50% of the organic matter of your body is composed of structural proteins, all of which are made according to your DNA. But not only the structural proteins, but the globular or functional proteins are made according to your DNA. So your protein carriers, cell receptors, hormones, all of those very important proteins which have a large impact on your metabolism are all constructed according to your DNA. Now you may ask the question, well, what about other substances that aren't proteins? How does DNA affect the metabolism, be it the production or breakdown of non-protein organic compounds? Enzymes are proteins, so they're going to be constructed according to your DNA, and those enzymes catalyze reactions that synthesize, break down, and otherwise modify carbohydrates, lipids, as well as other molecules. So DNA determines your appearance, your metabolism, essentially who you are to a certain extent, because your DNA determines all of the proteins produced by all of the cells of your body. Let's now look at how DNA is used to make proteins by your cells. I want to be clear that you are not expected to know the process to the level of detail as it is explained in your book. The next slides will explain the process to the level that you need to understand it for the purposes of this course. The synthesis of protein is a two-step process. The first step occurs in the nucleus. The second step occurs in the cytoplasm. This gold line represents the nuclear membrane, where the space above the gold line is the nucleus, where the nucleoplasm is located. and the space below the envelope is the cytoplasm, the part of the cell outside of the nucleus. In the nucleus, DNA is first used to make messenger RNA. DNA is unzipped, and one strand is used as a template to make a complementary strand of messenger RNA. This process is called transcription because the nucleotide sequence of messenger RNA is basically a copy of the nucleotide sequence of the DNA molecule. When you transcribe something, you make a copy from one form of media to another. For example, you may be writing down much of the audio of this lecture. You're effectively transcribing my spoken word into your written text. In a similar manner, transcription is copying the DNA code to the messenger RNA code. Figure 3.14 in your book details this process. Messenger RNA leaves the nucleus through nuclear pores and enters the cytoplasm. There, the messenger RNA is fed through ribosomes like a piece of coated tape. Some of the ribosomes are free in the cytoplasm, others are attached to the nuclear envelope or the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Every 3 nucleotides of the messenger RNA molecule code for a specific amino acid. As the ribosome reads the nuclear sequence of the messenger RNA, amino acids are added to the growing polymer of amino acids, forming a protein. This process is called translation because the nucleotide sequence of messenger RNA is being translated, if you will, into an amino acid sequence in a similar manner as one might translate words in one language, say Spanish, into words in another language, say French. Details of this process are illustrated in figure 3.16 in your textbook. I want to stress again that I am not requiring you to understand the process of using DNA to make protein to the level of detail that your book explains it. So let me summarize specifically what I want you to know. I want you to know that DNA is used to make messenger RNA, that this process is called transcription, and that it occurs in the nucleus. I want you to know that messenger RNA then leaves the nucleus and enters the cytoplasm. There, it finds its way to a ribosome, and the ribosome reads the messenger RNA molecule and uses its code or sequence of nucleotides to assemble a polymer of amino acids into a protein, and that this process is called translation. Now that you understand that using DNA to make protein by a cell is a two-step process, you may have the question that I once had, which was, why not make protein directly from DNA? I mean, isn't it inefficient for a cell to first make messenger RNA from DNA and then go from messenger RNA to protein? Why not just go directly from DNA to protein? Well, the answer to that question is simple if you think about, say, the secret recipe for KFC's breading for their chicken or the formulas for Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Obviously, these companies are not going to give their only original copy out to a production facility, whatever production facility makes their product. They're going to make copies of the original formulas and distribute the copies and keep the original copy tucked away in a safe somewhere where it can't be harmed. Your cell effectively does the same thing. By making messenger RNA, it makes copies of the information from the DNA, which can be used by your ribosomes, the production facilities, if you will, to make the product, the protein. If anything happens to the messenger RNA, you can make more because the original DNA is tucked away and protected in the nucleus. And by the way, the process of making protein is very hard on the messenger RNA, and the messenger RNA is destroyed in the process. Now that you understand that DNA is used to provide the recipe for all of the proteins that the body produces, let's answer the following question. What is a genetic defect? To have a genetic defect is to have defective production of a protein or defective function of a protein. Now, you probably understand how defective function of a protein can cause a state of disease or abnormality in the body. However, how can defective production of a protein in the absence of defective function also cause an abnormality in the functioning of the body? Let's answer this question by looking at our case study. Julia is a little girl that has cystic fibrosis, and it's caused by a gene mutation, basically an alteration in the nucleotide sequence in the DNA, the gene that codes for the CFTR protein. The altered DNA sequence results in an abnormal CFTR protein. Now, this CFTR protein, in terms of function, can function normally. However, because structurally the CFTR protein is abnormal, the proteasomes, those are the organelles that are responsible for destroying abnormal proteins, the proteasomes recognize them as abnormal and destroy them. So in Julia's cells, she doesn't have the normal numbers of the CFTR proteins. And this causes the disease cystic fibrosis. Cells that contain the same DNA can differ substantially in their functions or physiology, which is reflected in their structure or anatomy. Germ cells are the reproductive cells produced by the testes and ovaries, which are responsible for the production of progeny. Changes or mutations in the DNA of germ cells are heritable, meaning that they are passed down from parents to offspring. Somatic cells are all the other cells of the body. Fibroblasts of the tendons, red blood cells of the blood, fat cells of adipose tissue, macrophages of the white blood cells, to name a few. Alterations in the DNA of somatic cells, as is the case with cancers, are not heritable and will not be passed on from parents to offspring. These cells, illustrated here, all have very different form and function, yet they all share the exact same DNA. So the obvious question is, how can there be so much specialization or diversity among cells of the human body if they all contain the same DNA? The answer is cells specialize by turning genes on and off so that they can form specialized structures according to their function. In other words, different genes or segments of the DNA code for different proteins. Cells all contain the same genes, but they differ in which genes are turned on and which genes are turned off. For example, a neuron activates genes that code for proteins related to neuron tasks, and avoids activating genes that code for proteins that would perform skeletal or smooth muscle tasks. Let's review the objectives of the screencast. Define a gene, explain how DNA determines structure and function, define transcription and translation, and identify the location where each occurs within a cell. Define genetic defect, compare germ cells and somatic cells, and explain cell specialization among cells with identical DNA. The next screencast discusses the passive exchange of substances across the cell membrane.